One day, I was given a terminal diagnosis. On my 27th birthday, I collapsed at work, and following the examination, the results were dire. Despite feeling completely healthy, it turns out my body disagreed. I was told I had only 1 year left to live. At that time, I had just gotten married, and when I returned home, I shared this news with my wife, Emily. "Work called to say you suddenly collapsed. Are you all right?" Emily was worried. About that, actually. I wondered what she would think. Being in her 20s and newly married, she probably never imagined her husband would die so soon. Knowing her, a crybaby, she might break down in tears. What should I say to comfort her? In a situation where I couldn't even accept the reality myself, these were the thoughts running through my mind. But what she said after a brief silence was unexpected. "I see." Far from crying, she showed no sadness, just an expressionless face. I couldn't understand what she was feeling at all. Then, as usual, she said, "Dinner isn't ready yet, so you can go take a bath first," prompting me to act as usual. Despite feeling uneasy about her reaction, living life as usual helped me forget the unbelievable reality. But a few days later, that unease became a certainty. When I returned from work, Emily said, "I need to talk to you." Her expression was very serious, and I thought she wanted to talk about my illness. She must not have been able to sort out her feelings because it was all so sudden. I felt the same way. I had been thinking about how she would have to continue the life we were supposed to share together alone, and how we would spend our remaining time. However, what she presented was the opposite of my thoughts. "Please divorce me." With those words, she handed me the wedding ring. I was as shocked as when I received my terminal diagnosis, maybe even more so, and I couldn't find the words to respond. I thought we had a good relationship, not just before marriage, but even recently. I never dreamed she would ask for a divorce. I almost asked, "Why?" but swallowed the words. I realized there could only be one reason. Even though I've been given a terminal diagnosis, I'm healthy now, but eventually, I won't be able to live on my own. Supporting me through that would be too much to ask. It's natural to want to escape. Emily is still only 27. Of course, she wouldn't want to be tied down by her husband's illness. Knowing this, I couldn't refuse. "Okay." I responded and took the wedding ring. My life changed drastically that day. I was supposed to walk the same path with my wife. But now, I walk alone towards death. If only I hadn't fallen ill, none of this would have happened. Why did this have to happen to me? After the divorce, I thought about this a lot. Once I could no longer live on my own and had to be hospitalized, these thoughts became even more frequent. I reminisced about everything from when I met Emily until now. We met during college in a literary activity. Ever since I was a kid, I preferred reading books over playing outside with friends. As I read various books, I became fascinated with creating worlds that didn't exist in reality, and I started writing my own. In school, I was known as serious and quiet, and I didn't have many friends, but the literary activity, where fellow enthusiasts gathered, was truly enjoyable. It was during my second year when Emily, then a freshman, joined a club. Emily was a bit of an anomaly in the literary activity, as she also participated in the basketball team. She was sociable with many friends and always seemed busy. With her cute face and bright personality, Emily shone like a flower on a high peak. Despite this, she always talked to a quiet guy like me with ease. One day, while I was writing a novel alone in the activity room during a break, she suddenly came up to me. "I'd love to read your novel, James," she said suddenly. Although I had shared my writing with friends, it was rare for someone to express such a desire to read it, so I felt both embarrassed and happy. After reading the part I had just started, Emily commented, "The scenery is described so meticulously, It feels like I'm right there. I can't wait to read more." Emily's comments were exactly on the elements I had been focusing on, and I distinctly remember being truly surprised by that. And I couldn't help but feel incredibly happy. "Do you like reading books?" I asked. "Yes, since I was a child. People find it surprising, you know," she replied. I was indeed surprised, but it was evident that she genuinely loved reading. From then on, Emily always asked to see my latest writing whenever we met, and eventually, we started meeting just to show her my work. As our relationship continued, I developed feelings for Emily, but I thought it was impossible and kept quiet. Incredibly, Emily was the one who asked me, "Will you go out with me?" And so, we started dating. Even after we became a couple, Emily continued to be a fan of my novels. "You should show this to more people. You really ought to enter contests," she would say, pushing my hesitant self to do more. Thanks to her, I entered contests 3 times during university, and even won an award once. However, the real world wasn't so kind. All my submissions as a working adult were rejected. For 2 years after graduating, I lived a life of part-time jobs and writing novels. When Emily got a job, we started living together, but I increasingly felt that this couldn't go on. By then, I was thinking about marrying Emily. I couldn't keep burdening her with my endless chasing of dreams. I wanted to make Emily, who had given me so much hope, happy. With that determination, I completely gave up on my dream at 25. As I became an ordinary office worker, Emily often said to me, "Is it really okay to give up your dream? It's such a waste not to share your wonderful writing." But I wanted to make Emily happy, even if it meant giving up my dream. She was that important to me. After I repeatedly expressed this to Emily, she accepted my proposal the following year. I had thought, from now on, I'll make her as happy as she has made me. But things didn't turn out that way. But instead, I might have made her unhappy. I hope she's happy now. But if possible, I wish I could have been the one to make her happy. These thoughts occupied my mind every day. 2 years passed. I, diagnosed with only a year to live on my 27th birthday, am still alive and about to turn 29. There was only one way for me to survive: a transplant surgery. But the chances of finding a donor were extremely low. However, luckily, a donor was found, and the surgery was a success. It took some time to recover, but now I can walk on my own again. There was a place I absolutely wanted to visit once I could walk again. It was, of course, Emily's place. Emily might have already moved on with her life. She might not even want to remember me. But if my life was to continue, I wanted to see her once more and tell her. I needed Emily more than anything, even if it seemed stubborn. However, I didn't know what she was doing now. We had changed contact information when we divorced. So, her parents' house was the only clue I had. I hesitated with my finger on the doorbell, taking a deep breath. I might finally see Emily, whom I had longed to meet. But I might also be rejected. I had to be prepared for that reality. Just as I made up my mind, the front door opened, and there was Emily. She looked the same as she did 2 years ago. But I had thought I would never see her again, that I would die without another meeting, so I couldn't find the words immediately. Emily noticed me as she descended a few steps from the entrance. "What?" She looked incredulous, covering her mouth with her hand, frozen. It made sense. She might have thought I was already dead by now. As I was about to speak, Emily's expression changed dramatically. "What are you doing here?" She glared at me with an intensity I had never seen before. Feeling her strong rejection, my heart tightened. "I'm sorry for being persistent. I just had to see you, Emily, so I came." I confessed my feelings honestly. I had decided that today would be the last time. With that decision made, It might seem creepy to her now that she's moved on. But as I hesitantly read Emily's expression, I was surprised. Tears were streaming down her face. "Forget about me," she said that. "I'm sorry, I couldn't forget. All the time I was in the hospital, I thought only of you. I tried to convince myself that you were living a new life, but I couldn't. You were the most important to me." Pathetic, but that's my true feeling. "You thought of me all this time." "Yes." I thought she might find me creepy. I couldn't bear to look at her face. "Why? I wanted you to forget about me, to chase your dreams until you were satisfied. I always worried that you sacrificed your dream for me. If you only had a limited time left, I wanted you to live it the way you wanted." Emily said this, still crying. "That was the reason for the divorce." When I asked, Emily nodded quietly. I had misunderstood all along. Emily always had my best interests at heart. When I told her about my limited time, when she proposed divorce, she thought not of her happiness, but of mine. It was something I should have realized. Emily was always like that. I had always wanted to make her happy with my own hands. "My dream changed a long time ago," I said, and Emily looked at me, wiping her tears. "More than becoming a novelist, walking alongside you, seeing your happy smile right next to me became my dream, truly." Even after hearing this, Emily still seemed unconvinced. "Whenever I thought of writing something, it always ended up being about you." Saying this, I took out some manuscript paper from my bag. It was a piece I had continued writing during my time in the hospital. I had never intended to show it to anyone. It was like a love letter addressed to Emily. After reading it, Emily's cheeks were wet with tears again. "If possible, I want you to be by my side once more." "Thank you. Let me be the one to stay by your side," she said. But I had forgotten to tell her the most important thing: that my illness was cured. When I finally shared this fact, Emily was extremely surprised. Gradually, a smile appeared on her face, and she was happy. The paths of us, who had once parted, merged once again. 4 years later, we now have a new family. A 3-year-old daughter and a son on the way in Emily's belly. "Dad, tell me the rest of the story from yesterday." Every night before bed, my daughter would say this. "Are you sure you don't want a picture book tonight?" When I asked, she said with a smile, "No, your stories feel like they're real and are so much fun." It sounded like something I had heard before. Feeling nostalgic and chuckling, Emily joined us in the bedroom, saying, "Let us listen to." Us clearly meant Emily and the baby in her womb. I may have stopped writing novels, but my family enjoys the stories I create. I didn't achieve my grand dream I once envisioned, but these moments with my family are the happiest and most precious to me. I can't thank Emily enough for making me realize this. While I was telling the story, I heard a heavy sigh. Turning to look, I saw our daughter sleeping soundly between Emily and me. Sharing a smile with Emily, I stood up to turn off the light. Suddenly, Emily exclaimed, "Ah!" It moved. Reacting to her voice, I quickly placed my hand on her belly. I felt a distinct movement. It's true, the first time I felt the baby's movement. Emily, looking happy, said, "This child must love your stories too." I hope so. I will continue creating beloved stories for my dear Emily and our children.